Little bit of tip, little bit. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Tonight, I'm taking a look at Hasbro's Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Star-Lord and Ego 2-pack. Or as I like to refer to it, the most expensive single Marvel Legends figure I've bought in a while. I haven't went to the secondary market for any of my Marvel Legends in a good long while. So wanting this pack just for Ego, yeah, it's a $40 figure with maybe, even though I haven't compared yet, a better Star-Lord head. They pulled a Jyn Erso on us here. They put a Star-Lord in both series of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and then another Star-Lord in this 2-pack with a new character. I get the logic, I get the reasoning, but man, it gets a little bit old. Wow, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed or something today. Looking at the package, big window on the front, you see everything you're getting. I dig that. You guys know that. On the side, we have a nice picture of Kurt Russell as Ego. On the back, pretty pictures, bios for both. Down here, we have the warnings, the unreadables. Probably says something like, no, this is not Tim Allen from the Santa Claus. On the other side, we get a pretty picture of Star-Lord from the movie, either a drawing or a picture, whatever. On the top, tiny little window where you can just barely look down on their heads. On the bottom, legalese, barcode. So I'm going to get this open and see, well, I'm going to see at least what is going on over here. I have a pretty good idea of what's going on over here. And there we go, all out of the package. And I have to admit, the Star-Lord is a little bit of an upgrade. And then Ego, yeah, he's cool. There's some minor quibbles, but we'll get to that. But before I get any further, I'd just like to say I got this set from Entertainment Earth. It was their timed exclusive, which means they got it earlier than other places. But I am hearing that these are hitting Toys R Us now, and then other retail chains will probably get this set. Now, looking at the sculpt on Ego, it's got some very intricate parts to it. The belt, the shoulder pads, the bracers on the wrist. It's not all over, like the shirt, at least in the middle, and then down the sleeves under the armor type pieces. It's pretty plain. But now that I've looked again, on the sides of the shirt, it does have that intricate design there, too. Almost like there's metal on the shirt? I don't know. He's a talking planet. I'm not going to try to figure out why his costume is the way it is. And then below the waist, it's just sculpted pants and boots. The detail is nice, but for the most part, it's just kind of plain. And then paint all over. It's nicely added to the silver parts. It does miss in a couple places, especially on the right thigh where it's brown above the swivel, and then below, they forgot to continue on that brown. So it's not bad. I mean, you have to really look for paint that's out of place. So I'm going to call it pretty good. And then get up to the head. The nice sculpt continues on up to here. I love the wavy hair. It may not look completely movie accurate, but I like it. But the overall sculpt here seems a little small, if not his face being a little bit small inside the head, on top of the head being a little bit small. And it also seems a little bit puffy, like he's bloated a little bit. I can't explain it. I don't know if it's the beard throwing me off, but yeah, it looks off. But they're using that photo real here, and the eyes do look great, and the subtle differences in color all over his skin. And then going over to Star-Lord, it's pretty much the same figure that we already had. Sculpt is nice, paint is nice, everything is where it's supposed to be. But when you get up to the head, that's where the big difference is. This is a whole new sculpt, as far as I can tell. It's slightly smaller than the two previous ones we've gotten. And then the face paint tech, it's almost like it's evolved since those two figures. It's a little bit more detailed. It's a little bit more realistic. It's not perfect. When you get right up on it, you can see a little bit of differences. And he does look barely cross-eyed, at least in the pictures, but in person, I can't hardly see that. But I will say a lot of joints on both figures are very tight, especially in the ankle region. I've loosened that one up a little bit. The other one, still a little bit tight. And then the knees have big old detents in them. But like I said, I don't know, the head seems a little bit small. But these details right here, it's awesome. These little gear looks very techno looking. And on Star-Lord, the shoulders are hard to manipulate up and down. That one's loosened up a little bit. When I first got it out of the package, ooh, yeah, those were tough. Going over the articulation, there's a ball going up into the head on top of a hinge in the neck. He can't quite touch his chin to his chest, but he can look up fairly well for a guy with semi-long hair. A little bit of tilt, swivel. Hinge swivel in the shoulder, goes up that far, then swivels around. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow comes up all the way. Hinge swivel in the wrist, hinges in, swivels. There's a ball in the mid-torso. You can get forward, you can get back, you can get side, you can get side. That bandolier belt combo kind of gets in the way of articulation there when you're trying to move it around, but it looks good. It lays right. There's not a lot of gap. It doesn't stick up. I dig that. Hinge and swivel at the hip comes up almost all the way. Back, not so much. Out, not too bad. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee almost comes all the way up. Swivel at the boot. Hinge at the ankle, goes back, goes forward. Nice range of movement there, and then forward-facing pin for a rocker. For Star-Lord, I'm not going to go over his articulation since I've done a review on this pretty much exact same figure before. You can go back and check that out. But I will say that it's not as smooth as the first one. It's a little bit more tough to get him into poses, and that's because of the tight joints. Again, they're loosening up as I go. It doesn't seem like the arms sit down as well to his sides. He doesn't look as relaxed as the first figure. I guess that's what I'm trying to get across here. For accessories, Ego doesn't come with much of anything, but I will call his cape an accessory because it comes off. It's a nice sculpt. It has texture all over it. The wrinkles are nice, and it doesn't stick away from the figure too much. So it just hangs there. It adds to the silhouette. I'm okay with that. What I don't like, though, is how it holds the head up a little bit. To take this on and off, you got to remove the head. You put the cape on, and then you pop the head back on. And when you have it on, it's like he's getting choked, kinda. You can get his head down, but it's almost behind the scarf, like he's drowning in his own clothes or something. It's okay. I don't really care for it, though. And then his other accessory is an alternate head, and they kinda went figure arts on us here. The sculpt isn't that much different than the first one. In fact, the whole look of the head is pretty much the same as the first one. The only big difference I can see are the eyebrows are a little bit angrier. That's about it. And there may be some subtle differences. In fact, on the second head, it almost doesn't look as bloated. I would say that this one's more happier, kind of smiling, even though you can't see a smile. His cheeks are a little bit more puffed out. And on this one, he's a little bit more angry. So it's just slightly more streamlined. I can't be sure of that. I don't know, but that's what it looks like to me. And like I showed, you just pop the head, you put the other one on. If I were to pick one, I'd probably go with the alternate head, the one that's loose in the package. It just looks a little bit more stern, a little bit more Kurt Russell. For Star-Lord, his accessories include his 2 elemental guns. This is the same sculpt as we've seen with the past 2 figures, except there's less paint apps. There's not the gold in between the 2 barrels, or whatever you want to call it. He also comes with his Walkman, which is a little chunk of plastic. It goes on a peg on his belt, and it's not that useful, really, in the grand scheme of things. And then he comes with his masked head. Again, this is the same sculpt we saw with a previous figure. The only difference is the gold is a little bit less gold. The first version is kind of a coppery color. Well, I guess you could call this more gold, because it's actually closer to gold. The other one is more coppery, but more metallic looking somehow. Other than that, it's more of a duller sheen. The hair doesn't have as much shine to it. It's okay. I mean, for those that skip the first 2 versions, you get the best parts with this one. For comparison, here's Ego with Drax. It gives you an idea of how big Ego is, and everyone should have this Drax body. If you're collecting the movie Guardians, you have a version of this Drax. And here he is with Mantis. Again, good size. Ego's a little bit bigger than Mantis. That's how it should be. For Star-Lord, here's the 3 versions we've gotten this year, and I will say, getting the newest one in this 2-pack, I think I'm happiest with it. Especially the photo reel on this one. The other 2 aren't bad. They look like Chris Pratt. They look like Star-Lord. But this one's a little bit more refined. The skin tone is a little bit more realistic. The facial hair is more defined in the coloring. It's darker on the mustache and then the chops and the little goatee. And especially the eyes. They're more realistic than the other 2. Now the other big difference between the 3 of these are the shirt colors. This first Star-Lord we got, dark gray. The long jacket one, we got almost a white. It's a very, very, very light gray, really, but you could call it white if you wanted to. And then the new Star-Lord is kind of in between. He skews towards the lighter color, but it's still a gray. It's definitely a gray. It's not the whitish gray, and it's not the darkish gray. So you definitely have a choice. If you like the darker gray, you can put this head on that body. If you prefer one of these other heads, you can put it on this body. Either way, they're all interchangeable. It's all the same base body under the jacket and the arms. So at the end of the day, I don't regret the set as much as I thought I would. When I first saw the promotional pictures and then I saw the pre-order, I thought, why? Why do we need another Star-Lord? What are you doing to us, Hasbro? And don't get me wrong, getting 3 Star-Lords that are pretty damn similar in this short a time does kind of suck, but I am happy to get the one that is going to go on the shelf. Even though it's 99% the same as the one we got before, that 1%, okay, I'll call it 5%. 10 because I'm feeling generous after the review. I will say that it definitely improves on what was already there. Plus, I'm a Chris Pratt / Star-Lord sucker, so I'm going to like it. But getting Ego was the biggie. I dug the movie. I like Kurt Russell. I liked Ego. I like the way they did it. I like the way they brought that into the universe. Can't complain. So getting an action figure of him, yeah, that's awesome. I'm completely good with putting him on the shelf. I kind of wish because of these 2 characters coming in this set, they had done the glowing ball or some kind of energy thing, or a little bit more something to give Ego, I guess you could say. The extra head, while I like it better than the one that came on the figure, I mean, it's not even going with the expression you like better, it's just picking the one that looks better. It's almost like they went, this photo real thing is still new, let's put 2 heads in there and hope that one comes out better than the other. Then the cape is okay, but I'll probably display him without that. So I feel like the set's worth it. And like I said, no regrets here, but I do kind of regret getting the first Star-Lords. Yeah, you can't win. If you're like me, then Hasbro's got you. I can gripe all night, but what it comes down to is I paid money for the 3 Star-Lords, and there's nothing I can do about it. There you go. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the Fwoosh.